Quick one. Do you always make the smartest financial decision? I mean, do you always optimize your money to go up to the very last decimal? No, right? Good, because we're human. Welcome back to another video where I share my insights on the chapter that I have just read. Today, I will be talking in this video about the chapter number 11 from the book called The Psychology of Money by Mr. Morgan Housel. This chapter titled is Rational or Reasonable. And this chapter will give you a permission to stop trying to be perfect and start being practical. Because money is just like our life. You don't win by being the smartest person in the room. You win if you have peace and can sleep in the night at peace. Let me explain by what I just said. The lesson number 1, which I took away from this chapter, is rational is equal to maths. Reasonable equals to emotion. Morgan opens up this chapter with a very powerful line. He says, do not aim to be a coldly rational when making financial decisions. Aim to be pretty reasonable. Understand this. Being rational when it comes to investing is very good, but only on paper. Because on a page, it is just a formula, a spreadsheet that says that this should be an optimal move. But we are humans. We have emotions, we have traumas, we have dreams, and those will cloud our judgment because those truly matter. So while it might be rational to take the biggest risks in your 20 or max out your debt and invest aggressively, it might be more reasonable to chase your peace over pressure. And with that, it brings me to the lesson number 2, which I took from this book, which is understand the shift. Because reasonable decisions might not make perfect sense, but they are sustainable. Morgan in his book gives us an example of people who take out mortgages at a very low interest rates and still pay the mortgage off too early. Rationally, that is a very bad financial move. But reasonably, it feels good because it removes stress and anxiety of you owing somebody something. And that creates a space for peace. And in my dictionary, peace has a lot more value than digits in my bank. And then Mr. Morgan says this: you can't quantify every single financial move with a calculator. Some things are just about feeling safe and in control. And you know what? That is absolutely okay if that's you. With that, it brings me to the next key lesson from this chapter, which is investing is not a physics formula. Let's talk a little bit about investing. A person who is rational and reasonable will have a very different mindset towards investing. A rational person would say something like, don't diversify your portfolio too much. Just go all in into a stock where your expectations are the highest. But a reasonable would say to diversify your portfolio. He would do that because it will lower his anxiety and give him room to breathe out, and it also increases his chances of staying in the market for a very long period of time. And that should be our mindset, because this is the key to unlock wealth. And then Mr. Morgan says the correct answer to many financial questions is what works for you. This idea might sound a bit boring to you, but that is how the real wealth is built. by being quiet and being consistent. And with this, it brings me to the next key takeaway from this chapter, which is money is personal. So make it work for you. This is what is misunderstood by a lot of people. You are building a financial life. Your goal is not to have a perfect portfolio, and your financial plan and your goal should reflect that, because you need to know what is your risk tolerance, what is your anxieties, what are your goals, what are your fears, what is your enough, what is the risk management, and your values. And Mr. Morgan expresses this by saying, aiming to be mostly reasonable works better than trying to be coldly rational. And that is liberating. Because once you have understand this, you will start to make financial decisions that feel right, not the decisions that look good on a piece of paper. And with this, it brings me to the final takeaway from this chapter. That is, don't worship numbers, honor the peace. This line from this chapter just finishes the whole chapter with a very powerful mindset shift for myself. Mr. Morgan here says, rational looks good on paper, reasonable make sense in real life. This chapter personally has told me that there is a very big difference between a rational and a reasonable investor. Firstly, it is okay to make financial decisions that are not making perfect sense for you. But if those choices are helping you sleep better at night, those choices are good. Also, this chapter tells me that I don't need to max out on risk to get the biggest returns. I just need to stay in the game. And also, by reading this chapter reminded me of a chapter called Enough from the same book by Mr. Morgan Housel. Because when a person knows his enough, that is great. Because that knowing of his enough will keep him grounded and growing. And that is the difference between a person who is rich and a person who is wealthy. Because wealth lives in peace, not in perfection. And that brings me to the end of this video. If you have ever felt pressure for not making the right financial move, this chapter should give you the assurance and permission to take a chill and have peace. Because at the end of the day, the best plan is a plan that you stick with.